You wake up believing that you control your day, but every event has already been predetermined by the last feeling before you fell asleep last night. Neville Goddard revealed the hidden mechanics in Job. During sleep, the conscious merges with the subconscious, and the latter spends the entire night creating the means to express exactly what you felt in the final seconds before falling asleep. Your only real freedom is to choose that final feeling, and after that, you become an actor in a script that you wrote unconsciously. The Song of Songs hides the technique. I held him and would not let him go until I had brought him into the chamber of her that conceived me. Hold the feeling of the desire already fulfilled and bring it to the subconscious through sleep. Every night you do this without realizing it. You carry anxieties to bed and wake up surrounded of the problems you planted. The subconscious does not judge. It only faithfully reproduces any impression it receives in the physical world. 1/3 of your existence spent sleeping determines the other 2/3 spent awake. But you waste this creative power by sleeping in random mental states.
You woke up this morning believing that you would choose every action of your day, but the truth is that every movement, every encounter, and every emotion that you will experience today has already been meticulously programmed while you were sleeping last night. The script is written, the actors are positioned, and you will play your role with the perfect illusion of improvising. There exists a precise mechanism of reality creation that operates every night, regardless of your awareness of it. For decades, this knowledge has remained veiled in esoteric texts, disguised in seemingly innocent biblical passages, and protected by those who understood its revolutionary power. Neville Goddard, one of the few masters who dared to publicly reveal this secret, paid the price of academic ostracism for exposing what the mystical traditions have always known. Sleep is not rest. It is the laboratory where tomorrow's reality is being manufactured right now. A complete third of human existence transpires in a state of apparent unconsciousness. 8 hours per day, 2,920 hours per year, approximately 26 years in a life of 78. Conventional science insists that this period serves only for memory consolidation and cellular regeneration. But what if this official narrative were deliberately incomplete? What if the true purpose of sleep had been systematically hidden because its correct understanding would completely redistribute the power over the creation of reality? Sleep occupies exactly 1/3 of life, not by biological accident, but by precise mathematical design. This sacred proportion reflects the creative trinity present in all esoteric traditions: the observer, the observed, and the act of observation. During the 8 hours of sleep, consciousness executes a programming process that will determine with surgical precision the events of the following 16 hours of wakefulness. You awaken convinced of possessing free will, without realizing that you are merely executing a program installed during the night. The biblical passage of Job 33:15-16 hides a technical instruction disguised as religious poetry. In a dream, in a vision of the night, when deep sleep falls upon men, in slumberings upon the bed, then he opens the ears of men and seals their instruction. Note the precision of the language. It does not suggest or inspire, but seals the instruction. A seal is permanent, unalterable, and definitive. While the conscious mind sleeps, the subconscious receives and seals the instructions that will manifest as the random events and coincidences of the following day. Those who understand this mechanism approach sleep with the reverence of an alchemist entering their laboratory. They know that the next 8 hours are not an interval from life, but the most creative moment available to the human being. Each night offers the opportunity to completely rewrite the script of the following day, but only for those who know the precise technique of impressing the subconscious at the critical moment between wakefulness and sleep. Scientific and religious institutions maintain benefits when people are unaware of this complete information. Neuroscience focuses on the mechanical aspects of REM sleep and brainwaves, carefully avoiding investigation of the correlation between pre-sleep emotional states and subsequent events. Religions have transformed practical instructions for manifestation into dogmas about morality and salvation. Both sides of the coin conspire, consciously or not, to keep humanity ignorant about the creative power that it unconsciously exercises every night. Why were you never taught about the importance of your emotional state in the minutes before sleeping? Why did formal education never mention that the last thought sustained before unconsciousness determines the quality of the following day? The answer reveals a disturbing truth about social control. A population that sleeps in anxiety and fear awakens programmed to perpetuate those same states, creating a self-fulfilling prophecy of limitation and suffering. What is about to be revealed in this knowledge is not new. It is ancient, deliberately obscured, waiting for rediscovery by those courageous enough to question the nature of reality itself. Every night, millions of people cross a dimensional portal without realizing it. There are no visible signs of this crossing. The body remains motionless in bed, while consciousness slides into territories that science has barely begun to map. Neville Goddard discovered something that sleep laboratories still do not publicly admit. The exact moment when the conscious mind penetrates the subconscious can be controlled and directed. He spent years experimenting on himself, documenting results that defied any rational explanation. A man born in Barbados in 1905, without access to modern technology, decoded a process that neuroscientists with magnetic resonance imaging still cannot fully explain. The subconscious never sleeps. While you dream of falls, chases, or bizarre scenarios, it is busy processing the instructions it received in the last moments before your consciousness faded. It functions like a biological 3D printer. It receives the blueprint and spends the entire night building the reality that you will experience upon awakening. The dreams that you remember are just the background noise of this manufacturing process. The mystical traditions have always known this. The ancient dream incubation temples in Egypt and Greece were not superstitious religious centers. They were laboratories where the technology of consciousness was studied. People traveled thousands of miles to sleep in these temples because the priests knew precise techniques for programming the subconscious during sleep. They cured incurable diseases, solved impossible problems, and received divine revelations, all through the conscious mastery of this nocturnal portal. The Bible is full of coded instructions about this process. Jacob is sleeping with his head on a stone and sees the ladder to heaven. Daniel received dream interpretations that changed empires. Joseph of Egypt predicted 7 years of plenty and 7 of famine through Pharaoh's dreams. These were not special cases of divine intervention. They were demonstrations of what happens when someone learns to consciously use the portal of sleep. The problem is that 99% of people cross this portal carrying emotional garbage from the day. They sleep ruminating over arguments, financial worries, and fears about the future. It is like entering an operating room with dirty hands. The subconscious, which does not judge or question, accepts all this dirt as instruction and spends the night elaborating ways to manifest it. You wake up and find more of the same, more conflicts, more scarcity, and more reasons to fear. Then you blame fate, the economy, and other people. You never suspect that you yourself programmed every detail the night before. Neville discovered that the last 5 to 10 minutes before sleep are crucial. Not the last 30 minutes, not the last hour. Specifically, those final minutes when you are already lying down, relaxed, and about to lose consciousness. That is when the door between the conscious and subconscious is most permeable. That is when a single emotional impression can overwrite hours of negativity accumulated during the day. He called this the sleep-like state, not fully awake, not completely asleep. Scientists today call it the hypnagogic state. Brainwaves between 4 and 8 Hertz, predominance of theta waves. But the numbers do not capture what really happens. It is the moment when you can literally reprogram your reality for the next 24 hours. The method is absurdly simple, which perhaps explains why it has been ignored. It does not require years of meditation, it does not need a guru, and it does not cost money. You capture the feeling, not the thought but the visceral feeling, of already possessing what you desire. Then you maintain that feeling while you slide into sleep. The subconscious does not distinguish between vivid imagination and external reality. For it, if you feel something as real, it is real, and it will spend the entire night reorganizing circumstances to confirm that reality. How many nights have you wasted? How many reprogramming opportunities have you thrown away by sleeping in random or negative states of consciousness? Each lost night is a day living the wrong script. But each night also offers a new chance. The portal is always there, waiting to be consciously used. Neville Goddard revealed a truth that transcends symbolism. Within each human being operate 2 distinct aspects of consciousness that unite every night during sleep. The conscious represents the directing masculine principle, the subconscious, the receptive and creative feminine principle. From this sacred union are born all the events of human experience. During the waking hours, these 2 aspects function apparently separately. The conscious mind navigates the outer world, making decisions, forming opinions, and reacting to stimuli. The subconscious remains behind the scenes, silently recording every impression, every feeling, and every conviction sustained by the conscious mind. When sleep approaches, something extraordinary happens. The barriers dissolve. The conscious, which spent the entire day in a state of vigilance and control, finally surrenders. In this surrender, it delivers to the subconscious the sum total of its impressions, not just the thoughts, but mainly the deep feelings that it carried during the day. Why does this division exist? Why does human consciousness operate through this duality instead of functioning as an integrated unity? The answer touches the very nature of 3-dimensional experience. For experience to exist, there must be an experiencer and an experienced, an observer and an observed. The single consciousness divides itself into 2 to be able to know itself through relationship. The conscious becomes the focal point through which experience flows, while the subconscious maintains the continuity and coherence of that experience. The subconscious does not judge because judgment requires comparison, and comparison requires limitation of perspective. The subconscious operates from a position of totality where all possibilities coexist simultaneously. When you present a specific feeling before sleep, you are selecting one possibility among infinite ones. The subconscious then collapses the field of potential in that specific direction, not by preference, but by instruction. The receptive feminine nature of the subconscious does not imply passivity or weakness. On the contrary, it represents the supreme creative power, the ability to generate reality from impression. Just as the womb transforms microscopic genetic information into a complete human being, the subconscious transforms emotional impressions into complex 3-dimensional experiences. The conscious masculine principle provides direction and intention, but it is the feminine subconscious that executes the miracle of creation. This dynamic reveals why direct conscious control over reality always fails. You cannot force manifestations through conscious will, just as you cannot force the growth of a plant by pulling it. The conscious can only plant the seed through feeling. The subconscious, operating through laws that transcend linear understanding, orchestrates the infinite details necessary to bring that seed to fruition. The human tragedy resides in the ignorance of this dynamic. We spend years in therapy trying to change behaviors consciously, when behavior is only the visible effect of subconscious programming established during sleep. We fight against addictions, destructive patterns, and self-imposed limitations without realizing that we are fighting symptoms while feeding the cause every night. Sleep represents the moment where this programming can be altered, but only if we understand the language that the subconscious understands. It does not respond to words, logical arguments, or promises. It responds exclusively to sustained feelings. A feeling of prosperity maintained for 5 minutes before sleep has more creative power than 1,000 verbal affirmations repeated mechanically. Why feeling and not thought? Because feeling is the primordial language of consciousness, prior to word, prior to symbol. When you feel something deeply, your entire being resonates at that frequency. The subconscious recognizes this resonance as authentic instruction and acts accordingly. Thoughts can lie, words can deceive, but genuine feelings cannot be faked to the subconscious. The philosophical implication is disturbing. You are never creating anything new, only selecting among possibilities that already exist in the infinite field of the subconscious. Your feeling before sleep does not cause the future event. It selects which timeline of the infinite possible ones you will experience upon awakening. The subconscious contains all possible futures. The feeling determines which of them will become your present. This explains phenomena that materialist science cannot address: premonitions, synchronicities, and impossible manifestations. They are not violations of natural laws. They are demonstrations that natural laws operate in dimensions that transcend common conscious perception. The subconscious naturally navigates these dimensions, connecting causes and effects through paths that seem miraculous only because we cannot perceive the totality of the web of connections. Every night, you have an appointment with the creative power of the universe located in your own consciousness. The question is not whether creation will happen. It always happens. The question is, will you participate consciously, or will you let old and random programming determine yet another day of your existence? Free will is the most comforting lie we tell ourselves. You wake up convinced that you will choose the course of the day, but Neville discovered the uncomfortable truth: you are executing a script written while you slept. Every reaction, every spontaneous decision, and every casual encounter, all predetermined by the state of consciousness that you took to sleep the night before. Quantum physics flirts with this truth without fully embracing it. It speaks of the observer collapsing possibilities into reality, but hesitates to admit that this collapse happens mainly during sleep, not during waking observation. The act of conscious observation merely confirms what has already been selected subconsciously hours before. Once asleep, your freedom of choice completely disappears. Sleep is not a neutral state where consciousness rests. It is a state of active programming where the last feeling sustained before unconsciousness assumes total control. This dominant feeling acts like an orchestra conductor, organizing all the elements of future experience in harmony with its emotional tone. Think about the implication. You spend 16 hours awake believing you are in charge, but those 16 hours are merely the execution of a program installed during 8 hours of unconsciousness. The proportion is revealing: 2 parts of execution to 1 part of programming. The same proportion is found in efficient computer codes, where compilation time determines behavior during execution. But here arises the fundamental question: if everything is predetermined upon awakening, where does our agency reside? Neville identified the only point of true choice: the final minutes before sleep. Only there, in that narrow window between wakefulness and unconsciousness, Do you possess authentic power of decision, not over the events of the current day, which are already sealed, but over tomorrow's script? During the day, you react. Even when you think you are acting, you are reacting to predetermined circumstances with pre-programmed responses. Someone insults you and you feel anger, programmed reaction. You receive an unexpected bill and feel anxiety, a programmed reaction. Each emotional response was configured not by the present situation, but by the state of consciousness from previous nights. Daily reactions accumulate like emotional sediments. Each small irritation, each moment of doubt, and each flash of fear adds weight to the general state of consciousness. If you do not consciously clean these sediments before sleeping, they become the building material for tomorrow. It is a vicious cycle. Negative states generate negative days that reinforce negative states. Neuroscience observes that the brain processes information during sleep, consolidating memories and cleaning toxins. Partial truth. What it does not admit is that the brain is also actively building the model of reality that you will experience upon awakening, not just organizing past memories, but literally configuring future perceptions. Why does this knowledge remain hidden? Because its complete understanding would dismantle power structures based on the illusion of external causation. If people knew that the quality of their lives is determined not by politicians, the economy, or circumstances, but by the feeling they take to sleep, the entire edifice of social control would collapse. Education trains us to focus on the waking period. Work hard during the day. Be productive. Make smart decisions. Never. Take care of your state of consciousness before sleep. This omission is not accidental. A population that sleeps in states of fear and inadequacy wakes up ready to consume external solutions to internally generated problems. Every night, billions of people lie down without awareness of the power they waste. They fall asleep watching violent news, browsing comparative social media, and ruminating over unsolvable problems. Then, they wake up surprised that the day brings more violence, more inadequacy, and more problems. They blame the world, fate, and other people. They never suspect that they themselves programmed every detail. Classical determinism argues that the future is fixed, determined by past causes. Free will insists that we can change our destiny through choices. Neville revealed a third way. The future is determined, yes, but by yourself, every night, through the feeling that you choose to sustain before sleep. You are simultaneously the programmer and the program, the author and the actor, the cause and the effect. The true tragedy is not that we are predetermined. It is that we have the power to determine and do not use it. Each night offers the opportunity to completely rewrite the script, but we fall asleep on autopilot, recycling the same worn emotional states. Then we wake up to live the same day disguised as new. You are not a victim of circumstances. You are a victim only of your ignorance about when and how creation really happens. The technique that Neville taught shocks with its simplicity. Lie on your back, head level with the body. Capture the feeling of the desire fulfilled. Maintain it while you fall asleep. That is all. Why so simple? Because complexity is an escape. Elaborate rituals, endless mantras, years of preparation, all of this serves to postpone the confrontation with the naked truth. You already possess the power. You always have. The simplicity of the method exposes the lie that transformation requires intermediaries, gurus, and complex systems. The horizontal position matters more than it seems. When you are vertical, blood fights against gravity, and the nervous system maintains vigilance against falls. Lying down, level, the body recognizes that immediate survival is guaranteed. The muscles relax, the breathing deepens. More importantly, the barrier between conscious and subconscious softens. It is no coincidence that humanity's greatest revelations came in horizontal states, dreams, daydreams, and moments before sleep. Neville insisted, feeling, not visualization. Why? Visualization is still activity of the conscious trying to control, trying to force. You can visualize $1 million while feeling poverty deep in your being. The subconscious ignores the image and responds to the feeling. But when you capture the genuine feeling of prosperity, that lightness in the chest, that absence of tension about money, the subconscious recognizes this as reality and acts. Feeling always precedes manifestation because feeling is the language of creation. Before the universe existed as matter, it existed as felt possibility. Before you were born as a body, you existed as felt desire in your parents. Every creative act begins with feeling, not with thought. Thought organizes, but feeling creates. How would you feel if it were true? Neville repeated this question obsessively because it bypasses all the conscious defenses. It does not ask, how would you achieve it? Or, do you deserve it? Or, is it possible? It goes straight to the only place that matters, the final feeling, the state of arrival. But here lives a secret within the secret. The feeling of fulfillment is always stillness. It is not euphoria. It is not excitement. When something is truly yours, there is no agitation. There is naturalness. The genuine millionaire does not feel excitement when seeing their bank balance. They feel normal. The beloved person does not constantly vibrate with love. They simply live in it. The Song of Songs hides the complete manual of this operation. For centuries, theologians debated why an apparently erotic text is in the Bible. They interpreted it as an allegory of God's love for Israel, of Christ for the church. They completely missed the point. By night on my bed, I sought him whom my soul loves. By night, not during the day. On my bed, not standing, not in movement. I sought deliberate action, not passive hope. Him whom my soul loves, the specific feeling of the desire fulfilled. I found him and would not let him go. Finding is easy. Anyone can have a momentary glimpse of the desired feeling. The power is in not letting go, holding that feeling while the conscious screams, "But look at reality!" Maintaining it while logic presents 1,000 reasons to doubt, sustaining it until you can take it into deep sleep. Until I had brought him into my mother's house and into the chamber of her that conceived me. The mother is the subconscious. The chamber where we were conceived is the state of deep sleep. You must take the feeling there to the point where ordinary consciousness ceases and the subconscious assumes total control. The text continues with something that conventional scholars have never adequately explained. I charge you, O daughters of Jerusalem, by the gazelles and by the hinds of the field, that you stir not up, nor awake love, until it please. Why gazelles and hinds? Because they are animals that flee at the slightest disturbance. Like the meditative state before sleep, any mental agitation, and it escapes. Do not awaken love until it pleases. Do not force, do not agitate, do not try to accelerate. Once you have planted the feeling in the subconscious through sleep, let it work. The seed germinates in the darkness of the earth. The implanted desire needs time in the darkness of the subconscious before sprouting in the light of manifestation. All mystical literature uses sexual code because sex is the only creative act that ordinary humans experience. In orgasm, for an instant, the consciousness completely dissolves. There is no thought, there is no ego, only pure being. Conscious sleep, falling asleep while maintaining the desired feeling, replicates the state of creative dissolution. That is why Neville spoke of union between the conscious and subconscious. Failure always comes from the same mistake, trying too hard, forcing the feeling instead of allowing it, visualizing obsessively instead of simply feeling. The Western mind, trained in effort, does not understand that the greatest power comes from correct surrender. Not surrender to failure, but surrender to the feeling of success already achieved. You have been sleeping unconsciously for years. How about an experiment? One night, just one, fall asleep feeling exactly as you wish to be. Not as you hope to be, not as you deserve to be, as you already are. See what happens. You are an eternal dreamer pretending to be mortal. This is not cheap poetry. It is the fundamental structure of existence that Neville decoded through thousands of experiments with sleep. Eternal means that you existed before this body and will continue after. The dreams that you dream, these are temporary. Each life is a dream sequence. Each day, an episode within the greater dream. But the dreamer behind all dreams, that one was never born, will never die. The implication destroys the entire edifice of materialism. If you are an eternal consciousness temporarily focused in a body, then the limitations of that body are illusory. Physical laws apply to the avatar, not to the player. And sleep? Sleep is when the player can reprogram the rules of the game. Why do we accept limitations so readily? Because we confuse the character with the actor. You look in the mirror and say, I am poor, or I am sick, or I am inadequate. Number, your current character is experiencing poverty, sickness, and inadequacy. You, the eternal dreamer, are just temporarily identified with these conditions. Neville discovered the key. In the moment before sleep, you can choose a different dream. You do not need to drag the chains of the past into the future. Each night offers selective amnesia, the chance to forget who you were and choose who you will be. The law of reversal operates here. Instead of working from the present to the desired future, you assume the future as the present. Not, I will be rich, that keeps wealth in the future eternally. But I am rich, felt with the naturalness of an accomplished fact. The subconscious does not know linear time. For it, what you feel now is what is now. This explains why prosperous people become more prosperous while poor people become poorer. It is not just an economic conspiracy, although it exists. It is that the prosperous fall asleep feeling prosperous, and the poor fall asleep feeling poor. Each one recreates their reality night after night with perfect fidelity. Reversal requires intellectual courage. You need to feel the end before seeing any evidence of the means. You need to celebrate victory while the scoreboard shows defeat. It seems like madness because we were trained in a linear sequence: first work, then result. But consciousness does not operate linearly. It operates by resonance. You resonate with wealth, you attract wealth. You resonate with love, you attract love. But pay attention to the subtle trick. You cannot deceive the subconscious with empty affirmations. Repeating, I am rich 1,000 times while feeling poverty is a useless mental exercise. The feeling needs to be genuine, bodily, and visceral. How would you really feel if the problem were solved? Not how you think you would feel, how you would feel. The answer always surprises: peace. When something is truly resolved, there is no excitement, there is relief, there is no celebration, there is normality. The feeling of course I have this, instead of, I cannot believe I got this. Why have spiritual traditions always emphasized detachment? Not because of moralism about materialism, because detachment is the natural feeling of one who already possesses. You do not cling to what is truly yours, you rest in it. Each night you die to one day and are born to another. But between death and birth, in those precious minutes before sleep, you choose in which womb you will be reborn. The womb of scarcity or abundance, of love or loneliness, of health or sickness. The subconscious, faithful mother will gestate exactly the child that you conceive. Modern civilization has built a distraction machine that operates until the last second before sleep. Cell phones in bed, television in the bedroom, worries that invade even the pillow. Coincidence, or deliberate design to keep billions trapped in cycles of limitation? You have two choices. Continue sleeping as you have always slept, waking up to the same recycled script, blaming the world for problems that you yourself program. Or start tonight, not tomorrow, not Monday tonight, to consciously use the power that you have always had. Knowledge without application is informed impotence. You now know the secret. You know that tonight, in the minutes before sleep, will determine the quality of tomorrow. You know that the feeling sustained while falling asleep is the seed of future events. You know that you are the eternal dreamer, not the temporary dream. The question remains, what will you do with this knowledge? Every change begins with the understanding of your role as co-creator, and the only way to connect with this divine intelligence is through meditation. We have developed a set of audio tools to help you access this higher state of consciousness. To learn more and get immediate access, click on the link on the screen or in the comments. If this video resonated with you, write in the comments, "It made sense to me,"